Welcome back, everybody, for another deep dive.
Yeah.
This time we're going to be diving into Edwin H. Friedman's A Failure of Nerve.
Oh, this is a good one.
It's a great one. So many people have requested this one.
Yeah?
And we're really looking forward to it.
Yeah, exploring his ideas on leadership. Societal anxiety.
And how they're all kind of intertwined.
Yeah, how they connect and...
Exactly. And I know you're interested in this stuff, so...
Oh, absolutely.
Let's dive in.
Friedman argues that American society
Okay.
is wrestling with a chronic anxiety, and it's not just like your individual worries.
Right, not just like every day.
He's talking about a deeper systemic issue that affects how we lead and how we follow.
So chronic anxiety. So not just like a case of the Mondays.
No.
He outlined some characteristics of things like reactivity.
Right.
A tendency towards hurting behavior.
Yes.
And a real hunger for quick fixes.
Yeah, like we just want to...
Yeah, give me the Band-Aid.
Like just fix it.
It almost sounds like a dysfunctional family dynamic.
You're spot on.
Okay, all right.
Friedman actually makes that connection directly.
Okay.
He says these anxious systems, they tend to focus on symptoms instead of addressing those deeper emotional processes that are driving them.
I see.
For example, think about the media's fixation on safety.
Okay.
Of course, safety matters.
Right.
But this hyper-focus on it, even when it hinders progress or innovation, points to that chronic anxiety he's talking about.
So we become so risk-averse.
We do. We want the easy...
Always seeking the easiest, safest route.
Right.
Even if it's not the most effective.
Exactly.
So we're all a bit jumpy, looking over our shoulders. How does that impact leadership specifically?
Well, one of Friedman's most intriguing points is this idea of the fallacy of empathy.
Okay, the fallacy of empathy now.
We're always told that empathy is key to good leadership.
Right. You need to be able to...
But he seems to disagree.
Okay, interesting.
He argues that prioritizing empathy above all else can actually be detrimental. Instead of holding people accountable, we get bogged down trying to manage everyone's feelings.
Interesting.
And this, he suggests, can actually lower pain thresholds and stunt personal growth.
Okay.
You end up with a system where people are afraid to take risks, to challenge each other.
Right.
Or ultimately to step up and lead.
It's like we're coddling everyone.
We are.
And it's backfiring.
It is.
And he has this anecdote about the oversensitive audience member who criticized his presentation.
Yes.
It really highlights how fixating on feelings can just derail a productive conversation.
Absolutely. That story is a classic example of what Friedman calls a hostile environment.
A hostile environment.
Where empathy alone is insufficient when confronting destructive forces.
Okay.
You need more than just empathy.
Right.
You need a solid sense of self to stand up for your values.
Okay.
Even when it's uncomfortable.
I like that. Even when it's uncomfortable. That's powerful.
It is.
Which leads us to this concept of self.
Yes.
Which can be tricky in the context of leadership because we often associate a strong sense of self
with negative traits.
With negative traits, right? Like autocracy or narcissism.
Right, exactly. And Friedman suggests that this negative perception is a symptom of that societal anxiety we discussed.
Okay.
We've been conditioned to believe that focusing on individuality harms group harmony.
Right, like we need to all get along.
But he draws this fascinating parallel.
Okay, I'm intrigued.
Between the biological development of cells.
Okay.
And the formation of the United States.
Wait, so is he saying our cells are like mini patriots or something?
Not quite, but he compares individual cells to the original colonies.
Okay.
Highlighting how each maintains its integrity while uniting for a greater purpose.
Okay.
It's like the founding fathers instinctively grasped this balance.
Okay.
Individual cells coming together without sacrificing their individual integrity.
And that's mirrored in the U.S. Constitution with its checks and balances.
Exactly.
So he's arguing that a strong sense of self is not the enemy.
It's
of effective leadership. It's actually essential.
It is.
That's a key takeaway here.
It is.
Now, how does this all play out in relationships?
Well, that's where Friedman introduces the concept of emotional triangles.
Okay, emotional triangle. I've definitely been in a few relationship triangles.
Yeah.
But maybe not in the way that he's talking about.
Right.
So tell me more about this.
Well, emotional triangles arise from the inherent instability of two-person relationships.
Okay.
When tension spikes, a third party often gets pulled in to create a sense of stability.
Interesting. So it's like they need to diffuse the anxiety by spreading it out.
Right.
Creating this web of interconnected relationships.
It is a web.
And this happens in families and organizations, even on a global scale.
Precisely. Think about the example Friedman gives of a divorcing couple who conceive a child the night before separating.
Oh,
Talk about an unexpected triangle shift.
that's a heck of a curveball.
It is.
So we've got this rampant anxiety, people doubting the value of self,
Right.
emotional triangles popping up everywhere.
Yeah.
What's the antidote to all of this?
Well, Friedman talks about the power of presence.
The power of presence. Okay.
And presence for Friedman is about more than just action.
Okay.
It's about the energy you bring to a system.
Okay.
Think of a leader as a transformer.
Okay.
They can either escalate the existing anxiety or de-escalate it
Right.
simply through their presence.
Okay. I like that analogy a lot.
Uh-huh.
But how do you become one of those de-escalator leaders? What's the secret sauce?
Well, it circles back to self-differentiation.
Okay.
The more a leader manages their reactivity
Mhm.
and stays grounded in their values, the less they get swept up in the system's emotional chaos.
I see.
And this, in turn, has a calming effect on everyone around them.
So it's like this ripple effect.
It is.
Their stability kind of spreads out.
Exactly.
Okay. And he uses his own experience navigating a health crisis to illustrate this, right?
Absolutely. He talks about this incredibly stressful period
Yeah.
where he's facing major surgery
Right.
and has to make some weighty decisions.
Yeah.
He talks about gathering information without getting overwhelmed,
Okay.
navigating the emotional triangles within the medical system,
Right.
maintaining his sense of humor and perspective through it all.
That's so important
It is.
to be able to hold on to that.
Yes.
It's inspiring to see how he applied his own principles
Right.
in such a personal and challenging situation.
In the real world.
Yeah, walking the walk, not just talking the talk.
Exactly. And that's what makes his work so compelling.
Yeah.
He's lived these ideas, not just theorized about them.
He's been in the trenches.
He had.
Now, speaking of the past, Friedman also dives into how unresolved issues
Right.
from our past can influence our present behavior.
Or present behavior, yes.
This presence of the past seems to impact everything,
Everything. Families, organizations.
even whole societies.
Absolutely. He uses this great anecdote about
Absolutely.
two types of congregations,
Yeah.
the pill congregation
The pill congregations.
and the plum congregations.
Okay, pill versus plum. What's the difference?
While the pill folks are stuck in the past, fixated on their problems,
Okay,
while the plum congregations are forward-thinking and adaptable.
so pill stuck in the past, plum moving forward.
Exactly. And he argues that this difference often boils down to leadership.
Okay.
Leaders stuck in the past create systems that are stuck,
Okay.
while leaders who can move forward inspire their followers to do the same.
So it's almost like these pill congregations are lugging around their past baggage.
Right.
And it's weighing them down.
That's a perfect way to put it.
And it's something we all need to be mindful of.
We do.
What unresolved issues are we carrying
Right.
that might be hindering our ability to lead effectively?
Good question.
That's a powerful question for everyone to consider.
Absolutely.
Friedman's book really delves into these ideas.
It does.
And if you're finding this conversation helpful, I highly recommend checking out the book for a deeper dive.
For sure.
There's a link to the book on Amazon in the show notes.
And as always,
And as always,
if you're finding this breakdown useful, don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe.
please do.
It really helps us to continue to bring you great content.
It really does. We appreciate all the support.
Yeah.
And stay tuned. We'll have part 2 of this deep dive coming up soon.
Absolutely.
See ya.
Yeah. So far, we've been exploring these big systemic issues
Right.
of anxiety and the importance of self-differentiation.
Yeah.
But how does this actually play out for someone leading in the real world?
Right.
Whether it's a CEO, a teacher, or even just someone heading up a project at work.
Yeah. How do we take these abstract ideas and apply them to the day-to-day?
Exactly.
It's easy to talk about self-differentiation in theory, but it feels a lot more challenging
Oh, yeah.
when you're actually in the thick of it, you know?
When you're in the trenches,
Yeah.
Friedman uses this analogy of a ship captain navigating through choppy waters,
Okay.
which I think is perfect. It
Yeah.
really captures the challenges of leadership, especially when you're surrounded by that chronic anxiety
Yeah.
and potential sabotage we discussed earlier.
Well, I like the analogy of a ship captain.
Yeah.
You're trying to steer the ship in the right direction,
You are.
but the waves are crashing. The crew might be panicking.
Yeah.
How do you stay focused?
That's where Friedman's insight gets really interesting.
Okay.
He points out that many shipwrecks aren't caused by massive storms
Right.
or obvious external threats.
Right.
They're often the result of small, seemingly insignificant errors in judgment.
Interesting.
It's like the captain gets so fixated on the big picture
Right.
that they miss crucial details. And those tiny mistakes can have catastrophic consequences.
Wow. So it's not just about making the quote-unquote right decision.
No.
It's about avoiding those little slips, those moments of hesitation
Right. Those little...
that can snowball into something bigger.
Exactly.
And I imagine that pressure is amplified tenfold
Oh,
when
yeah.
you're leading in an already anxious system.
Absolutely. It becomes this vicious cycle.
Oh, man.
The anxiety makes decisive decision-making even harder.
Right.
And that lack of clear leadership just fuels the anxiety further.
Yeah.
Everyone's looking for someone to take charge,
Right.
but nobody wants to risk making a mistake.
Right, because if you make a mistake, then...
Then it all falls apart.
Right. Which brings us back to the importance of self-differentiation.
Right.
A leader who can stay grounded in their own values,
Right.
who doesn't get swept away by the panic,
Right.
they're the ones who can break that cycle.
Precisely, their calmness and clarity
Yeah.
create a sense of stability and direction,
Oh,
even when everything feels like it's falling apart.
it's like their presence.
It's contagious.
Yeah.
How their presence can protect the system
I see.
from being completely consumed by anxiety.
So how do you actually cultivate that kind of presence?
That's the question, isn't it?
Yeah. What are some tangible steps that a leader can take?
Well, Friedman offers some really practical advice.
Okay.
First, he talks about managing information without getting overwhelmed by it.
Okay.
We live in a world of data overload.
We do.
And it's tempting to think that if we just gather enough information,
Right.
the right course of action will magically reveal itself.
Oh, I'm so guilty of that. Just researching every possible angle,
Right.
reading every article, and then feeling paralyzed
Yeah, analysis paralysis.
when it's time to actually make a decision.
Right. Friedman argues that at a certain point, you have to stop gathering information
Okay.
and start trusting your instincts.
So it's about being able to listen to your gut,
Yes.
to make a call,
Yes.
even when you don't have all the answers.
Exactly.
Which is really hard,
It is.
especially in a culture that values data and expertise so highly.
It does. But Friedman reminds us that leadership is about making those tough calls.
Right.
Even when you're not 100% certain,
Yeah.
it's about being comfortable with a degree of uncertainty
And being okay with that.
and being okay with that.
Yeah. Okay. That makes a lot of sense. And what about those emotional triangles we talked about earlier?
Right.
How does a leader navigate those effectively?
Well, Friedman emphasizes the importance of recognizing those triangles and being able to step outside of them.
Right.
When you're caught in a triangle, you're constantly reacting
To the other people involved.
to the other people involved and losing sight of your own goals and values.
You get sucked into their drama,
You do.
even if it has nothing to do with you.
Exactly. And the key to stepping out is to focus on your own self-differentiation.
Okay.
Clarify your own values, your own goals,
Right.
and act in accordance with them regardless of what the other people in the triangle are doing.
So it's about taking responsibility for your own emotional well-being
Yes.
and not getting tangled up in their emotional webs.
Exactly.
But what about when things don't go as planned? Friedman also talks a lot about sabotage, doesn't he?
He does, and he believes sabotage is inevitable,
Right.
especially when you're trying to lead change. People comfortable with the status quo are going to resist,
Okay.
and that resistance can take many forms.
Oh, yeah. I'm thinking about that story he tells about the psychiatrist
Yes.
being sabotaged by the bureaucracy
Right.
simply because he's gay.
It's a powerful story.
It really underscores how deeply ingrained these patterns of resistance can be,
Hey,
even within institutions that consider themselves progressive.
yes. It's a stark reminder that even the best intentions
Right.
can get derailed by these systemic forces.
Wow.
Friedman argues that the most effective way to deal with sabotage
Okay.
isn't to fight it head on,
Okay.
but to maintain your focus on your goals and your integrity.
So it's about not letting the saboteurs dictate your actions,
Right.
but staying true to your vision
Yes.
and trusting that eventually the right people will see the value
Right.
in what you're doing.
Exactly. It's about leading by example,
Okay.
demonstrating the change you want to see through your own behavior.
Okay, so this all circles back to Friedman's central point, right?
It does.
That failure of nerve is ultimately a failure to lead from a place of self-differentiation.
He's saying that we've lost touch with that inner compass
Right.
that guides us towards true leadership.
We're constantly searching for answers outside ourselves
We are.
instead of looking within.
Exactly. And Friedman challenges us to reclaim that inner authority,
Okay.
to remember that the most effective leaders are the ones who are able to lead themselves first.
Lead themselves first. That's powerful. And as we're discussing all of this, I can't help but think about how much of it resonates with my own experiences. It's like Friedman is giving us a language to understand these patterns that we see playing out all around us in our families, our workplaces, even our personal lives.
Absolutely. Yeah, it really is. And it's so relevant, to the challenges we face as a society.
Yeah.
One thing that really stood out to me in Friedman's book
Okay.
is the emphasis he places on the leader's own emotional well-being.
Oh, that's interesting. So it's not just about managing the emotions of everyone else.
Right.
It's about taking care of your own emotional state as well.
Exactly. He argues that a leader's ability to manage their own anxiety
Okay.
is critical not just for their personal well-being,
Oh,
but for the health of the entire system they lead.
yeah, I can see that if the leader is constantly stressed and overwhelmed,
Right.
it's going to create this ripple effect
What it will.
throughout the organization.
And Friedman points out that one of the biggest stressors for leaders
Okay.
is getting stuck in what he calls the togetherness position.
The togetherness position, what is that?
This is where the leader feels responsible for fixing everyone else's problems,
Oh, boy.
for ensuring everyone's happiness, and for maintaining harmony at all costs.
So it's like they become the emotional caretaker for the whole system,
Yes.
which is impossible.
It's an impossible task.
And no wonder so many leaders burn out.
It's a recipe for disaster. Friedman stresses that leaders need to learn to differentiate themselves
Okay.
from the emotional needs of the system,
So set boundaries.
set boundaries, and prioritize their own well-being.
So it's not about being cold or uncaring.
Right.
It's about recognizing that you can't effectively support others.
Exactly.
If you're running on empty yourself, you have to fill your own cup first.
That's a great way to put it. And this ties back to the importance of self-differentiation.
Right.
A leader who is grounded in their own values
Oh.
and is able to manage their own anxiety is much better equipped to handle the inevitable challenges of leadership.
Okay, so it all comes back to that core concept
It does.
of self-differentiation.
It does.
Now, we talked earlier about emotional triangles.
Right.
Does Friedman connect those two ideas?
He does, and he suggests that learning to step out of those triangles
Yeah.
is one of the most valuable skills a leader can develop.
Okay.
When you're caught in a triangle, you're reacting to the other people involved and losing sight of your own goals and values.
You get pulled into this drama.
You do.
That's not really yours to own.
Exactly. And the way to step out is to focus on your own self-differentiation,
Okay.
to clarify your values and goals,
Right.
and to act in accordance with them, regardless of what the other people in the triangle are doing.
So it's about taking ownership of your own emotional well-being
Yes.
and not getting sucked into the vortex of other people's emotions.
Right.
I'm sensing a theme here.
You're catching on.
Okay, good.
And Friedman also emphasizes the importance of understanding how the past influences our present behavior.
Okay.
He believes we all carry unresolved issues from our past,
Right.
and these issues can often play out in our current relationships,
Yeah.
both personally and professionally.
He has that great example of the congregation
Yes.
that keeps cycling through pastors,
Right.
never finding one who can truly meet their needs.
Right. He argues that this pattern stems from the congregation being stuck in a dynamic from their past,
Oh,
always searching for a savior to come in and fix their problems.
it's like they're looking for someone to rescue them
They are.
from their own emotional baggage.
Exactly. And Friedman suggests that the only way to break this cycle
Okay.
is for the congregation to take responsibility for their own emotional well-being,
To do their own work.
to stop looking for a savior and start working on their own issues.
That's a powerful message, and it applies to all kinds of systems,
All systems.
not just congregations.
Right.
It's about recognizing that we can't keep blaming our past.
Right.
For our present problems, we have to be willing to do the work to heal and move forward.
And that's where leadership becomes so crucial.
Okay.
A leader who is self-differentiated and understands the power of the past
Yeah.
can help create a system that is more resilient, more adaptable,
Okay.
and more capable of facing the challenges of the present.
So to be an effective leader, you have to be willing to do your own inner work first.
You do. It's not just about leading others.
It's about leading yourself.
It's about leading yourself. Exactly.
This has been a fantastic deep dive into a failure of nerve.
It has been
Thank you so much for joining us on this exploration.
my pleasure of Friedman's work.
And for our listeners,
Yes.
if you're ready to explore these ideas further,
Yeah.
we've included a link to Friedman's book in the description. You can find it on Amazon. And purchasing through our link helps support the channel and allows us to keep bringing you quality content.
Absolutely. And if you enjoyed this episode, please take a moment to like, comment, and subscribe to our channel.
Yes.
It helps us grow and reach more people who are interested in these important ideas. Until next time, Stay curious, keep learning, and lead with nerve.
I like it.